3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the Show Me Show podcast for episode 6. I'm your co-host Cam with
Luke Newhouse.
And we got a pretty packed show today. Finally, a really busy week in the NFL, baseball, even actually.
Is this the greatest sports week to ever happen? I mean, just like all sports in general.
This
like
year, for sure.
Yeah, I would say that for sure. But like, there's NFL news every single day. Baseball is back after nearly a 3-month hiatus. Actually, it was over a 3-month hiatus. College basketball selection Sunday is today. We should be recapping that at the beginning of the show. Yeah.
It has been awesome week. So let's just jump right into the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, my brain is leaking just sports juice after sorry, I stuttered there for a second. It's what am I trying to compare it to right now? Like, sports is free, gas is not. That's all I can say.
True. It's fueling us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're going to start with the biggest NFL week since the Super Bowl, for sure. And it started on Monday when Calvin Ridley was suspended on Monday for the entirety of the 2022 NFL season for gambling on games this past season. $1,500 in total on games this season of parlays and whatnot for Ridley. It may seem harsh. In fact, the poll on Twitter that we put up on our Twitter, follow the Twitter, Show Me Show Pod,
Indeed,
thinks that this is a very harsh tournament. And to be honest, though, you simply can't have players doing this in the NFL. And I think a suspension like this will keep other players from doing this in the future. It does suck, though, that, he had like those depression issues and whatnot, and now he's not even going to be able to play the game that he loves next year.
I originally thought when the story first broke that when he took the hiatus for his depression issues, I thought that is when the gambling occurred during that time. And I was furious originally. I was like, did he really just say that so he could, step away just to gamble? But it turns out it was actually before then. So maybe his loss of money caused some depression issues. We never know.
Probably not, since it was only $1,500.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm not against the suspension because this is, once again, an integrity of the game thing, like we were talking about with Stephen Ross last week or a few weeks ago. This is something that, even though it appears the games are not compromised in any way because he didn't play in the games that he bet on, and he bet on his team to win, not lose.
True.
So that's always a good thing. It doesn't seem like the games are compromised in any way, but with gambling becoming as big as it is and the NFL doing all these partnerships and stuff with these gambling companies, it seems like this suspension might help to prevent that from happening and potentially games being compromised in the future. So,
no, I agree. You just, like I said, you just can't have it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why they laid down the hammer. Like, there was no stop time in between when they announced that he got caught gambling and then the suspension. It was like immediate. Like Roger Goodell's like, oh, let's look in the book. What do we usually give? Oh, it's a year. Boom. And it was laid down pretty much just like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Roger Goodell, like, he's a big integrity of the game guy. And I think that this, just further lays it, he laid down the hammer. And I don't blame him at all, because this is something that, while it didn't exactly, it's not a big of a deal. It's not as big of a deal now, but it certainly could become one in the future. And I think you have to stop it before it does happen.
Yeah, I agree.
Before it's too late.
And it's just like, if you think about all the possibilities that could happen with players gambling on their own games, that would just destroy, like you said, the integrity of the game. That's why you just can't have it. It's just that simple. You just can't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the hammer was laid down. I don't know if he'll appeal it because I don't know how much you can win in this case. Maybe come back earlier.
Yeah, I think so there's gambling for everything in sports nowadays, and I saw that there was a gambling line for when Calvin Ridley would play his first game. And I think it was set at 8.5 games. So I think a lot of people were betting that
He
maybe
will
he'd just
appeal.
yeah,
That
he'd
he
just
will.
appeal and maybe would be suspended for like the first half of the year.
Yeah.
The 8 games. So I think he will. I think he's planning on appealing. At least, I mean, I would. There's no harm to it. If you lose, then you lose, and you still have the same suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this is certainly a big loss for the Falcons as they are already hurting, I guess. They're an aging team, and losing your top receiver like this for an entire season after having him for maybe 5 games last year, that's not something that a veteran like Matt Ryan likes to hear.
No. And like they struggled. They were like one of the better teams that was bad at the same time. I think we've talked about that with each other, just like, the king of the bad. They had some players, some positions that were filled, but that was pretty much it. They couldn't like take down any truly good NFL teams.
Yeah, they were the best bad team.
Yeah, very middle of the pack, maybe even below middle of the pack, because even the middle of the pack teams can compete and like win some games against big teams. They would just never win against big teams.
Yeah,
just bad teams.
Like if there was a consolation bracket for the NFL, I would probably bet a lot of money that the Falcons would win that,
or at least get like 4th. Maybe
no,
towards
I would
the
say
end.
they win.
Because they might come against a middle of the pack team in the
that's true.
towards the end of the consolation. And
Maybe
then,
like
boom,
the Ravens
lost by 4, 5.
Yeah. Did they beat the Dolphins or did they lose to the Dolphins? There was a field goal at the end of the game. I think they won, didn't they? That's a middle of the pack team right there. Is the Dolphins that they beat?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean the door is obviously open for any team in that division this next year, with the Buccaneers being dismantled, a few of the offensive line pieces being gone, Tom Brady retiring, some of the defensive pieces not coming back. But it does look like they are going to retain both coordinators, though.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah.
But it also makes you wonder, will Wrigley even play another game as a Falcon too? Like, there's a good chance that he'll come back eventually, but will he even be playing for the Falcons? That's another thing that's up in the air.
Yeah,
for sure.
I don't know. I actually did gain a lot of respect for the Falcons because apparently some teams reached out like to trade for Calvin Ridley, like ask for a trade or whatever, and the Falcons would deny it every time because they knew what was going to happen. And, they couldn't necessarily say it to other teams at the time, but they would just deny trades like, no, you don't want them or something like that because they knew that a big suspension was coming. And so it was a very positive ethicalness from the Falcons there.
Yeah, that's a really tough spot to be in for the Falcons too.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're trying to get something for him at some point, because apparently, there were some talks about maybe him going to like the Patriots or something like that, but I guess those pretty quickly withered away.
Yeah,
it sucks to see, but protecting the game, it's that simple. You just can't have it. So
yeah, I mean, Pete Rose is still not in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. I thought about him too, when something like this happened, but
he wasn't even a player at the time. He was a manager when it happened too, I'm pretty sure. So his play, he wasn't even playing in the games. He was just managing it, and he's out of the Hall of Fame for that, for something he did post-playing career. So I think, honestly, 1 year might seem like a little bit like, what's the word here? Not enough.
I think, yeah, I mean, I kind of see what you're saying because, Rose is lifetime, but Wrigley still has, a good chunk of his career left. Now, something that's not really on his side is I think he's already going to be like 28 years old by the time this is over with. So that's not exactly a good thing, is he's already going to be kind of towards the back half of his career, unless he becomes like a stud and can just withstand the league for a while, but that doesn't happen very often, especially when you have to take a year off. So
Yeah, I mean he's older than what it seems. It seems like he hasn't been in the league that long, but he's almost he's in the prime of his career right now. Yeah, tough scene for the Falcons there in Calvin Ridley, but it does look like he will get back on the field at some point, maybe, whether it's in a Falcons uniform or not. I think we should move on here. We got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
For
But
the NFL.
just sum it up. We're on the same page a little bit. It had to happen. It sucks, but it had to happen.
I agree with the suspension.
Yeah. And some bigger news actually than this. The breaking news stories this week. Monday, Calvin Ridley. Tuesday, on International Women's Day, Aaron Rodgers announced that he will be returning to the Packers in 2022. The details of his new deal are still unknown up to this point.
According to Pat McAfee, because Ian Rappaport did leak that it was 4 years, $200 million with like $160 million guaranteed. But Rodgers and Pat McAfee both said that they have not signed a deal. So maybe Rappaport got that from maybe that deal was offered to him, but nothing is official yet. Aaron Rodgers has reportedly said that it will be a cap-friendly deal. So he's still going to get money, $20-30 million. But as far as the $50 million, I don't necessarily see him getting that.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to think. It could be that. Maybe he said false, like as in terms of, no, I haven't even signed it yet. Or maybe there's more money. Luke thinks it might be less money than that. I'm not really sure. It's kind of hard to say, especially with Aaron Rodgers. He's kind of this mystical human.
You have no idea what's coming next with him.
But it's a huge deal. And I think, there was a lot that played into his decision because they narrowed down. They said that there was teams with trades in order: Steelers, Broncos, Titans, and none of those came to fruition. So he must have really wanted to stay in that division, which I don't blame him. Bears, Vikings, and Lions, 6 games a year. That's not bad. And I think he realized that if he wants to win another ring, that might be his best opportunity.
I mean, we're looking at a situation where the Lions could be getting second place in the division next year because the Bears are, we're going to talk about it later, they traded away one of their biggest defensive pieces. They're starting off a new coaching era. Vikings also starting off a new coaching era, talking about trading Kirk Cousins. With all this, I mean, Rodgers, I heard someone say Rodgers could play left-handed and still probably win the division. That's how bad the division is. So this is 100% the best spot for him to be if he wants to win another championship. And it sounds like they're trying to re-sign as many people as possible. I think that's why I said Rodgers is going to take a little bit less of a deal so that they can sign more of his friends. And so he can play with them again.
Yeah. And we've talked, I think, actually last week or maybe 2 weeks ago that there was some moves being made in the organization, like with Aaron Jones and whatnot, restructuring deals around the team to kind of free up some of this because the Packers also then went ahead and franchise tagged Devontae Adams, which is a big deal because without Devontae Adams, you don't have a true number 1 wide receiver. And a lot of people thought that there's always been this weird thing on the internet where people thought he might go to the Raiders at some point.
That's because Derek Carr, they played in college together.
Did he go to Fresno State?
Yep. They actually played at the same time, I do believe.
Okay.
So that
makes sense. That makes more sense. I was always wondering why that was always a thing.
Yeah. Well, and at the beginning of last year, like when all the Rodgers stuff was going on, like will he stay or whatever, Devontae Adams made a comment that said that he would love to play with Derek Carr again. So I think that's why the Raiders was a big thing.
Okay. Well, maybe then as soon as Rodgers is done, Adams will be like, okay, ship me to Vegas.
Yeah, I could see that, which, if we get a Super Bowl, I'm fine with it.
No, for sure. Yeah. You'll do anything for a Super Bowl.
I will do anything for a Super Bowl. I'll also do anything for a national championship. But
well, yeah, that's later though.
Yeah.
So yeah, big deal. Luke's excited. Or you're not only are you excited, but you're just like
relieved.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is over for sure.
I mean, I always kind of had a feeling that he was going to stay because I feel like he would have given more signs. He gave signs that his relationships improved with the front office, but he didn't really give any signs of him leaving. So I always kind of thought that he would stay. But it's just good to know that he actually is.
Yeah.
So
it was fun though. For people non-Packers fans, it was fun when he was just like kind of freelancing, free floating in the league when you had no idea where he was going to go. But looks like he will stay. Now, technically, he hasn't signed yet, so who knows? But
No, he
he's
tweeted that
coming
he
back.
said he's staying with the Packers. So whether that's a 2-year deal, a 4-year deal, or even a 1-year deal, he will be there next year, and that's all that matters right now.
So with no Rodgers on the market, the Broncos did go ahead and make a huge move for Russell Wilson.
Jaw dropping. Like my jaw literally dropped when I saw this.
Yeah. And just a freaking huge move. I mean, the Broncos gave up Shelby Harris, Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and 2 first-round picks as well.
And 2 second-round picks.
And 2 second-round picks. And the Seahawks.
Blockbuster. Literally flipped the league.
Yeah. Seahawks, what? They just sent Russell Wilson and a 4th, I think, was it?
It was some mid-round pick, 4th, 5th, 3rd, something like that.
Nothing crazy. Mostly just Russell.
Yeah, so pretty much. Big haul for Russell, though. But, I mean, he's a top 10 quarterback, maybe top 5 in the league. And Broncos are desperate for a QB. You know, they feel like they got a winning team other than a QB, and they're tired of waiting on Drew Lock to develop. So go out and get your guy. Apparently, Russell Wilson, the only spot he wanted to be was in Denver. So that probably gave Denver a little bit of leverage there.
Yeah. I think we both can agree. Denver, Colorado, absolutely gorgeous. So, and it kind of fits to his lifestyle of being super healthy, you know, all the hiking and all that stuff out there. And the ball is just going to fly in the air for Russell Wilson when he throws it deep.
And with Tim Patrick, a lot of people are talking about Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, but just think about the Russell Wilson-Tim Patrick connection. Tim Patrick is one of the best deep ball receivers in the NFL. And him to be matched up with Russell Wilson here in Denver, it's going to be so fun. I just hope they get New Jerseys, though. Great time to introduce New Jerseys.
Definitely a great time. It's kind of like you're starting over when you kind of get like a new franchise quarterback and stuff. And like we were talking about, they just haven't been able to hit on a quarterback. So it was like enough waiting, enough trying to just draft guys. Let's just go get one. And they finally did. And that's what they did with Peyton Manning, and that worked out eventually.
Yeah. So, well, Peyton Manning was also a free agent. They didn't have to give up
they didn't have to give
draft
up
capital for the next 2 years to get him. The Colts literally released him, so he was right there, and then he won an MVP. So
I guess one thing. So I think the Broncos won this trade, but because the Seahawks, draft picks, they're great on paper, but once they become picks, it's that's when the true valuation starts, and it's hit or miss with draft picks. And if you need a quarterback now, also, unless they're gonna let Locke ride out for a year, they're probably still gonna draft one, I think.
Or Deshaun Watson. I heard they're in on the sweepstakes.
Yeah, they are also in on
Deshaun.
Sweepstakes
Free
for
man
Deshaun.
Now.
I got a lot for it, but they, especially Fant. That's a big, that's nice. Shelby Harris is awesome, nice to acquire
because especially that defensive line for Seattle, awful.
Yeah,
awful. I mean, Carlos Dunlap is washed. I can't even name anybody else on the defensive line. So Shelby Harris is going to be a huge piece, to help probably stable that line there. Get a little bit of pressure on the quarterback next year. And at the quarterback position, I don't know what they're going to do because Drew Lock
is kind of like that piece that you receive in the trade that can hold down the fort for a little bit until you find something. He's not the worst thing in the world.
He's like the Jared Goff for the Lions.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He's not. He can stabilize your team at least a little bit until you can find something.
He's not going to win you a Super Bowl though.
No, probably not even 7 games. I don't know.
Well, not in that division with that defenses that he's facing.
Which also brings up another point that the AFC West becoming the best quarterback division probably since we've been alive.
Maybe ever.
Yeah, one of the best ever.
Yeah. 4 great quarterbacks, all top 15 in the league.
Mahomes, Herbert, who's young and very up and coming, just keeps taking big strides and getting better. Derek Carr, franchise quarterback, he's probably the furthest down on the list. And then obviously Russell Wilson, another Super Bowl winner. So 2 Super Bowl winners and 2 Pro Bowlers as well in that division.
Yeah, that is going to be a fun division to watch this year. All those matchups are going to be must watch. This is really looking good for Nate Hackett right now.
Yeah, it's going to help. It's nice to start off with freaking Russell Wilson compared to Drew Lock. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, they're not the same, but they both can sling it.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
but I was interested in seeing Drew Lock being developed by Mr. Hackett, but the Broncos now have the 4th best Super Bowl odds next year. So they went from literally like 21st or something like that all the way up to 4th with this one trade. So with that big of a jump, I would definitely say that the Broncos won the trade. When you put yourself in the top 5 teams for next year, you always win the trade there, especially going from where, it wasn't like last year where the Rams went from maybe 9th or 8th in the league, to 2nd with the Matthew Stafford trade. Like, this is literally bottom tier all the way up to top tier.
Huge
is what the
jump.
Broncos went. So
leaps and bounds better next year. But obviously, still have to play the games. So who knows? Russell Wilson, when he came back last year, now granted he had a thumb injury that, we thought God healed for him or something like that. But, he wasn't really the same. So. Oh, shit.
He had the thumb injury, and when he came back last year, finally, he came back too fast. I think we all kind of knew that. And when he came back, he just wasn't the same Russell Wilson that we're used to. And just like that, the Seahawks weren't very good for the rest of the season with him, even compared to when he wasn't with him.
I think it was when he first came back, like they weren't that good. And something makes me think that maybe it wasn't fully healed, or maybe he didn't have enough time to rehab and he came back too quickly, because it did seem like he was off. But towards the end of the year, he started to get it back and become the normal Russell Wilson that we know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't think it's obviously a thumb injury shouldn't carry on this long, as long as he doesn't re-injure it, because those are very re-injurable. But I think he'll be fine. I think it'll be good, Russ. MVP first half of the season, Russ. Still 0 MVP votes ever, but during the first half of the season, he's usually a stud.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, this is a good leaping point here. Would you rather have a QB who has received 0 MVP votes or one that's received 2 MVP votes?
I know where you're going with this. And no, in this case, in this special case, I would rather have 0 MVP votes over Carson Wentz's 2 MVP votes. But just right before we jump to that trade, the Seahawks also released future Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner, who is maybe the best middle linebacker over the last decade. And him and Russ were the last 2 players from that Super Bowl team, which is wild. And I think we were talking about, what will Pete Carroll do? Is he going to just go ahead and wrap it up here after this year, or what?
I would imagine, because I think releasing Bobby Wagner was the last stage. Like, it was pretty much officially announcing the rebuild.
Yeah, that was the end of the era completely.
Yeah, I mean, because trading Russ is obviously like, okay, they're rebuilding, but then releasing Bobby Wagner, to save money, that's like a big move. Like, okay, yep, we're restarting here, starting a new chapter. And so I think Pete Carroll might be a little bit mad that he stayed for this next year, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, I don't see him continuing after this year.
Well, he could technically still call it quits. Yeah, honestly,
that'd kind of be screwing the Seahawks over.
Yeah, but he's a little bit of time to where, I know the head coaching searches are all over and stuff, but he has a little bit of time. Probably just needs to get it done though before the draft if he wants out.
Yeah, who would even be the head coach next?
I don't know. They might just go someone in house if it's that late.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And they may even not even name him head coach. They may just name him interim, because like you said, it would be kind of screwing him over a little bit. But
at the same time, the Seahawks did kind of screw over Pete Carroll. So you'd just be returning the favor.
Yeah. Yeah, double screwed, and it evens out. So, yeah. But let's jump back to where Luke was alluding to.
Mhm.
The Washington Commanders go ahead and trade for 2 MVP votes in the past. Carson Wentz.
With the Feagles.
Yeah, when he was with the Philadelphia Eagles in 2017, he had that great year until Nicholas Foles came in and saved the day after he got hurt.
Torn ACL, actually. The only thing that concerns me here with Carson Wentz, actually, it's not the only thing because there's many things that concern me with Carson Wentz, but him on FedEx Field is going to be a journey. That's all I'm going to say.
It may not be a long journey.
Exactly, because FedEx Field is historically known for injuring players, and Carson Wentz is kind of historically known for getting injured. So those two things combined together, I just see a disaster potentially happening here. You know, Carson Wentz may like fracture every bone in his body. His muscles may all get like ripped out of his body.
Yeah.
He may die.
Yeah. I mean,
on the field.
We've seen some incredible injuries on that field. Tons of torn ACLs, but also like Joe Theismann's injury.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Griffin, I think, was on that field as well. So lots of bad injuries on that
More
field.
recently, Chase Young last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And even, Jalen Hurts almost got injured there when the stadium
he almost died.
So
almost got crushed. Yeah.
Carson Wentz. Now, his stats last year, they really weren't that bad. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 7 interceptions is not bad at all. But some of the interceptions that he did throw,
he only threw 7 interceptions last year.
Only 7. That's pretty damn good, actually.
That's only 3 more than Aaron Rodgers.
But some of his interceptions were some of the worst interceptions you'll ever see. Like, they looked like college quarterbacks making those throws in the NFL. I remember one of them, it was late in the season. I think they were playing the Titans.
No, I know which one.
They're on their own goal line, and Carson Wentz steps back to throw, and instead of taking the safety, he thinks, well, if I throw a pick six, I'll avoid the safety. He throws it up. Titans player interception, takes it back to the house, which was only like 5 yards away.
No, it was like 1 yard. He literally intercepted it on the goal line. It was that insane of an interception. But actually, this was a big brain decision by Carson Wentz, really, because
you get a safety, then you also have to punt it to him.
Yeah, and with that late in the game, they didn't have 3 timeouts.
But also wasn't a big brain decision in the long haul because they lost that game. Yeah. That was a great game, actually. I remember watching that game in the car coming back from the Notre Dame, North Carolina football game that I went to. I was watching Red Zone, and oh my God, it was incredible to watch. But
the only thing
just has some really bad plays.
Yeah, the only thing I can say about Carson Wentz, and this is the best way that I can put it, is that he is the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. I kind
of see that.
He puts up decent stats. I mean, his yardage numbers are pretty good. His completion percentage is a little low. His touchdown interception ratio seems to be pretty good. But when you look at his stats on paper, you're like, oh, this guy's good. But if you watch him play, similar to Russell Westbrook, you're like, what is this guy doing? He's not smart. He's not very good at the game. He doesn't really know what he's doing. And I hate to say that for Carson Wentz and Russell Westbrook, but that's when you watch it, that's kind of the feeling that you get.
Yeah. I'll say this. They had the second best running game last year, which also really helped them. And then, so that's one thing that helped him. One thing that didn't really help him, I would say, is that his best wide receiver, who took a big jump this year, was Michael Pittman. But that's not the greatest number one that you could have. And then when he's going to Washington, they do not have that great of a running game. In fact, the way that most of their running backs get most of their yards is through passes out of the backfield. And he does have a better number one wide receiver, though.
That's true.
Terry McLaurin. So
Scary Terry
evens out a little bit, but also not. And like you just said, his stats look good on paper. Almost a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is fairly good in the NFL. I think Russell Westbrook it's a solid comparison, but I also think Russell Westbrook is maybe a little bit better player. Here is what I will say, though, about Carson Wentz. You can watch him from afar,
if you understand what I'm saying, but you wouldn't want him to be your quarterback
No.
of your team. You can watch him from afar
Mhm.
and be like, oh, yeah, he's not the worst thing in the world. But I'm so glad he's not our quarterback.
Yeah, I would have a heart attack every single game. Like, you just never know what's going to happen. You could be up by 17 and be like, he's going to throw a pick six here, but you could be down by like 14 and be like, well, he's still Carson Wentz. He could come back and bring us a win. So you just never know. I think that'll make games exciting for Washington Commanders this year. With the new uniforms, new name, starting it off nice with Carson Wentz. And for the Colts, on the flip side of this, they get a third-round pick out of it and another third-round pick that could potentially become a second-round pick if Carson Wentz plays 70% of the snaps, which on FedEx Field, like we alluded to earlier, might not happen.
Yeah.
So not a bad return, but they did trade a first-round pick for him last year, so they kind of lost this trade, I think.
Yeah, I think
just based on what they gave up for him to get him.
The football team gets pretty good value, I think. Like, you're not losing a whole lot if it doesn't work out. I also think, did they swap second-round picks this year too?
Yeah,
I
so
think
that's
they did
not
that
big
too.
of a deal. But
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
I think the football team or the Commanders have a slightly higher draft pick.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like,
it's well actually
it's like
above,
8 picks above them.
Yeah, that's pretty significant actually when you think about it. But
yeah, I guess.
So yeah, I think this one's a little bit more even, I think, than the last trade that we talked about. But
yeah, I think
it's beneficial for both teams. But this also means that the Colts are completely on the market for a quarterback as well.
Maybe, or maybe they're rolling with Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, that's it. Right now, he's the starter. As of right now, technically on the depth chart, he is the starting quarterback. So
yeah, I've heard rumors about Jimmy G. I would honestly rather just take a chance on Sam Ehlinger. Because the 49ers are going to want for him is probably going to be maybe one first-round pick. Maybe.
I don't know. It depends on if teams feel like they're coughing cornered up, that they want to get rid of him or not. So,
holy cow.
But yeah, so that pretty much what happened between the Colts and the Commanders. Now, there was some franchise tagging. We're gonna just rip some of these off here. Browns franchise tag David Njoku, who has continuously gotten better over the years for the Browns, even though Alex Hooper took a lot of his reps this year.
Austin Hooper
took a lot of his reps this year. And then the Buccaneers went ahead and franchise tagged Chris Godwin as well, making that, a little bit more of a nicer place to be if you're a quarterback in the market. Jesse Bates, who was awesome in the playoffs for the Bengals, also got franchise tagged. Had 2 interceptions in the 4 games in the playoffs, and probably their best secondary player for the Bengals as of right now. Maybe Mike Hilton is also pretty good. So yeah, but then the Chargers made some huge moves. First, they re-signed Mike Williams, their Justin Herbert's big target, taller target, deeper threat target. 4 years, $60 million. Good for them.
I don't know how to feel about this one.
I think it's fine because he's so explosive, and he has gotten better.
Yeah, that's true. Like, his first few years in the league, he wasn't.
Nothing.
Yeah, last year he did take a really big leap, and I think Justin Herbert really kind of liked him last year.
Yeah, Justin benefited from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know how to feel because I don't really see Mike Williams as like an elite receiver. So for him to get $15 million per year seems a little bit high. But at the same time, I think Keenan Allen is no longer a number 1 receiver, and they may be betting on Mike Williams to take the leap to that role.
Yeah, I think Keenan Allen actually had a good year last year, but he was hurt quite a bit as well. So, and then the Chargers made a huge move. The Chargers get Khalil Mack from the Bears for just a couple of picks. Bears in total rebuild. The Bears are in total rebuild mode with their new coach and new GM. Pretty scary front 7 though now for the Chargers, whose defense last year was pretty bad at times in my opinion. So they'll get another big force up front.
for not much. Like I said, it was like
the second round pick.
and I think a later pick too.
Yeah, I think it was a second and a fifth. Yeah.
Yeah. So not a bad haul for the Chargers, especially since they have their quarterback. They've got their guy. Draft capital means a lot still, but
yeah, I think the Bears are paying most of Khalil Mack's contract too.
Yeah, they still have to pay a hefty chunk of it because he was on the team for like a certain amount of time.
Yeah,
before they traded him.
So that's a great trade for the Chargers.
Yeah,
instantly improve their line.
Yeah, their front seven. It's going to help even more when you're trying to track down guys like Russell Wilson twice a year, and obviously Mahomes. That'll help. Derek Carr's more of a pocket passer, but can move around a little bit. And, it should just help them make a deeper run, maybe if they get in the playoffs finally, which they haven't done in the Justin Herbert era yet. But this is Chargers easily won this deal.
Oh, yeah, I would say. But at the same time, I don't think the Bears were really looking to win the trade. They were just looking to get something out of
They're looking to restart.
Yeah.
I mean, Khalil Mack didn't want to be there anymore. That's what the reports were saying.
They suck. I wouldn't want to be in Chicago either.
No, I mean, and, for the Bears, you can try and bank on Robert Quinn having another huge year next year. Probably won't have as great of a year because that was just out of nowhere, but we'll see. But yeah, Chargers definitely won that trade for sure. But jumping to the Titans, this is something quick. Titans re-signed another stud linebacker, Harold Landry, 5 years, $87.5 million. So they'll still have a solid defense next year with him and Bud Dupree and Jeffrey Simmons up front and stuff like that. So
yeah, big deal for him.
Yeah, Vrabel keeping everybody trying to keep that defense together because that's what carried them, especially with how bad Tannehill played late. Like, Tannehill played awful in the playoffs. So,
yeah, but at the same time, I think I don't know how to feel about Tannehill. I think you roll with him again next year just because he had such a good year in the years past, and he took you to a 1 seed this year. You just got to expect him to play better in the playoffs.
Yeah. Their offense was just boring this year when Henry wasn't in.
Yeah, tell me about it. I had A.J. Brown on my fantasy team.
Oh, I remember that. That was brutal for you.
He either went off for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, or he had 2 catches for
7.5 yards.
Yeah. So it sucked to start him. He was one of the worst players to have on your team this year. You want to talk about the Cowboys here a little bit?
Yeah, there was a little bit that happened with them too.
A little bit. I think there was quite a bit that happened with the Cowboys.
So it appears that this was a few days ago. I said it appears that the Cowboys are going to cut Amari Cooper. Well, nope. The Browns kind of cough and cornered them, like I was just mentioning, into we'll take him off your hands for a little something.
Yep.
And so the Browns were able to get Amari Cooper, and in return, the Cowboys were able to get a bag of chips and a cup of coffee, black. And so that was pretty much it for that deal.
Okay. Why black coffee? Why not iced coffee?
Well, because that would have been too much for Amari Cooper.
Okay. That's fair. I think I don't know who won this trade because the Cowboys were going to release him.
Mm-hmm.
So this way they get something. Yeah, they get a little something back. I know people on Twitter were like, this is a terrible trade. Amari Cooper's worth way more than a 5th rounder. Like, yes, obviously, but
they don't have to pay him.
Circumstances, this is actually a decent trade for the Cowboys. Like, it's kind of funny because they should have never had to release him in the first place because they shouldn't have paid all these bad players big contracts. But
this is a big deal for the cap truthers out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The salary cap believers.
Yeah,
and this one hurts a little bit for the salary cap non-believers.
I honestly just don't think Jerry Jones understands the cap, because if you're a cap non-believer like me, there's ways to get around that if you want to win. And I just don't think Jerry Jones is smart enough anymore to figure out the way. Like, he's like, oh, we're about ready to get over the cap here. We need to trade away, instead of just being like, no, let's instead of paying Ezekiel Elliott $20 million a year, let's make that a signing bonus so that we have an extra $12 million to deal with every year, like the Packers did and like the Saints have been doing for years now. So that's why I think Jerry Jones is just getting a little old. and he just doesn't really know what he's doing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, because it also sounds like that the Browns are letting Jarvis Landry seek a trade, so it's kind of like they're running one of their number one wide receivers out of town and just replacing him with Amari Cooper, who's like probably a top 3 route runner in the NFL.
Yeah.
So, but this also, something I just realized is CeeDee Lamb is going to be the number one guy now, completely. So CeeDee's nuts. Will be the number one guy.
Yep.
Along with Gallup, if once he gets back, he had a major injury to end his season, but they're probably gonna have to draft somebody. Actually, now that I think about it, to try and bring.
Well, what about
somebody else
that Cedric Wilson guy?
Yeah, he's okay. I would say he's gotten better, but he's also bounced around a little bit. I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's really something that's gonna be there for a while.
Cowboys also cut ties with Greg the Leg, apparently.
Yeah. Also done with Greg the Leg.
He was not good.
He wasn't. He was not good for the Cowboys.
He's washed.
So that doesn't really surprise me. I don't even know if he'll kick again in the NFL. Maybe somebody will sign him after, because you know, like how sometimes your kicker will pull a hamstring and then you have to sign somebody real quick.
Yeah, he'd be a good guy for that. Yeah.
But that's pretty much about it, honestly.
Yeah, he had a bag fall off. On the Browns side of this Amari Cooper trade, they get a elite receiver. I think Amari Cooper is one of the more underrated receivers in the league, specifically because he was on that Cowboys offense that was so explosive in all directions. But he's going to go to Cleveland here and be the number one target, right off the bat. And I really don't think that maybe Odell, but I don't think Cleveland's had a receiver this good.
I think Jarvis Landry at times is awesome.
But he's not as good as Amari Cooper. So I think if the Browns, Kevin Stefanski, and Baker Mayfield can both utilize Cooper to his best abilities, it's going to be a fun offense to watch.
Yeah, well,
which is weird because I
think the main piece in getting that together is Baker. Getting Baker together again.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's Baker Mayfield, man. I mean, it's like they want to give him a new contract, but he needs to earn it a little bit.
Yeah, I really think that he was just injured last year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I really think he's better than what he showed last year. And I think it had to do with injuries. So I'm really excited to see, he's had all of his surgeries in the offseason. He should be 100% at the beginning of spring training or at the beginning of camp next season. And I'm excited to see what he can do.
Yeah. And are
we pro Baker Mayfield?
I don't like the Browns, but I'm fine with Baker.
Okay.
And I'll say this about Baker. One of the most competitive mofos in the league. He was a super competitive guy in college, and it just shows, in the NFL, he's trying to play through injury. Now, I will say this, in some games, it definitely hindered the Browns' ability because the injury was completely hindering Baker's ability. But he tried to gut through it, and I respect the hell out of that. But
yeah,
he's a super competitive guy, and I hope he's fine.
Yeah, the grit of the quarterbacks in Ohio right now is very high.
Yeah.
One last thing on the NFL. I feel like we've been talking about it for a long time, but that's because so much happened.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, so Monday we had the Calvin Ridley. Tuesday we had Rodgers and Wilson. Wednesday, I do believe, was Carson Wentz. And I think Thursday we might have actually gotten a break. And then, Thursday was Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
And Friday, Deshaun Watson. Yes. Saturday was Amari Cooper. But on Friday, Deshaun Watson, criminal charges have been dropped on all cases. So he will not be going to jail, it looks like, for anything that happened. There are some civil lawsuits going on right now.
He has to deal with all 22 of them.
Yeah, and from what I understand, most of these will be settled outside of court.
Yeah.
So very similar to Big Ben.
Yeah, just like Big Ben out of court.
Kobe Bryant, what happened with them too.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar situation. Deshaun still claims he's innocent, which apparently the jury sees the same way in the criminal cases. I think this is good news for Deshaun Watson. Well, obviously, it's good news for Deshaun Watson. It's good news for the NFL, though, and for just fans of football.
Yeah, it's a good thing for football. And like you just said, the jury couldn't. This is what they said. They said the jury couldn't find enough evidence to indict him on the charges. So they're not saying that he's completely innocent.
Yeah.
But they're saying that there's not enough here to where we can really charge this guy with anything. So
the jury
Deshaun's
didn't.
free.
Yeah, the jury didn't say that he was completely innocent, but Adam Schefter did.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
According to Adam Schefter, Deshaun Watson is an innocent soul. Which
I second that, Adam.
I certainly hope that's the case because I've always liked Deshaun Watson, not just obviously as a football player, but really as a guy. He's a competitor. He just seems like a class act guy. And whenever this stuff first, I know that's funny to say now, but whenever this stuff first came out, I was like, there's no way like this can actually be true. But as it came on, I was like, well, maybe this might be true. And we were just all wrong about Deshaun Watson. So we will see what happens.
Yeah,
with that, but with the criminal charges being dropped, it appears that he is back on the trading block because teams, obviously they won't have to worry about their QB that they just gave up multiple first-round picks for going to jail. They might have to deal with a suspension from the NFL, similar to, like an Adrian Peterson case.
Yeah. Really, any case. They happen all the time, but the NFL, for some reason, will just like slap you on the wrist with like 4 games.
Yep. But I mean, if he does get some suspension, I guess we wouldn't be surprised. I would say no more than 8 games, though, would be the max. And I think a lot of teams are willing to do that for multiple years of Deshaun Watson because that's an incredible. I know the Panthers are willing to pretty much trade their entire team for him.
Don't blame them.
If I was Matt Rule, I would trade my entire team. I just have 11 Deshaun Watsons out there on offense.
Yeah. It's like Tom Brady.
Yeah, except Tom Brady never had to deal with this stuff.
I was just meaning in the sense that he had to play offense and defense and
special teams. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Tom Brady did play all 11 positions at all times.
So.
That's why he's the greatest of all time. But Matt Rule needs a quarterback bad, so I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina gave the best offer. I know Seattle's going to be involved. Steelers may be involved too. Colts, I would think maybe would be involved a little bit, but I think Panthers are the favorite right now. And if the Panthers do get him in that division, they got a chance.
Yeah, no, it'll be an instant,
probably be favorites
upgrade, obviously over Sam Darnold and PJ, but they'll have a true chance. Man, I mean, the only competent quarterback right now that's rostered in that division is Matt Ryan because Jameis Winston isn't under any contract. Kyle Trask and Blaine Gabbert are the only contracted quarterbacks in Tampa. And Sam Darnold is for the Panthers, I think. So if they get Deshaun, then yeah. But, oh, my God. I know you briefly mentioned the Steelers. But
carry on the tradition.
If the Steelers get Deshaun Watson, I will be unbearable in some senses. I would love to have Deshaun Watson.
Of course you would. You had Big Ben.
Last year playing one of the most incredible quarterbacks I've seen play in game. I remember one time, I think it was Thanksgiving, they're playing the Lions, and he just self-obliterated the Lions. Just picked them apart. And the Texans weren't good. The Texans haven't been good in a while. But he was the just heart and soul carrying them.
Yeah. I remember that video at the end of that year. They went 4-12, and they had the 3rd or 4th pick in the draft. And I remember this was the last we've seen of Deshaun Watson, is when he was walking off the field and J.J. Watt was next to him, and he said, sorry for wasting a year of your career. Sorry for wasting such an incredible year that you had. I remember that video. It's in my mind, like it's right in front of me. And that is the last we've seen of him, but it looks like he may be back this year. So
yeah, it sucks that we didn't get to see him at all this year. Obviously, there was no way we would have been able to, but I missed him in some senses of, just watching him. Now, the Texans, they're not really in the worst spot. Mills Mafia did not look bad towards the end of the year.
Yeah, well, actually, they are in a bad spot just because their team sucks and they can't find a head coach.
Well, I just meant, in the quarterback sense that,
maybe they might have something there. And if they don't, then yeah, technically, I guess in football it is the end of the world, but they have some time to figure some stuff out, especially if they get a big haul for Deshaun Watson. And I'll be honest, if the Steelers want to give pretty much all their draft capital for the next 2 years for Deshaun Watson, I'm in. I mean, we just need a mobile quarterback that can make things happen. Mason Rudolph, he is not the answer. Now, if this doesn't happen, I'll be honest.
Oh my God.
I think they're either gonna, if Pickett's there, which I don't think he'll be there, but if Pickett's there, I feel like they're gonna take Pickett at 20 and just let him sit behind Rudolph for a while.
Sit behind Rudolph.
Oh my God, I would also be super fine with tanking for Bryce Young next year with Rudolph, because if Rudolph is horrible this year and it's pretty much a tanking season for the Steelers, I'll never have to see him again in a Steelers uniform.
I would be very glad if I did not have to see the name Mason Rudolph again.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because for some reason the Steelers want to keep him around, I have to, and it really makes me angry. So I really want the Steelers to either trade for Deshaun Watson or draft Kenny Pickett simply so that I don't have to watch Mason Rudolph play. That's how much I'm not even a Steelers fan, and I hate Mason Rudolph.
Yeah,
he would be the worst quarterback in the league behind guys like Sam Darnold, Kyle Trask. Even I would put ahead of Mason Rudolph. He is terrible. Awful. There's nothing special about him. I don't know why the Steelers like him so much.
I don't know what's going to happen. I think the reason why they're keeping him is because he sat behind Ben for so long, and he's been a great teammate apparently. But from an outsider view,
Ben Kurt has been a great teammate too, but that doesn't mean the Packers are going to start him.
Yeah. Rudolph has actually played some, and it's not the worst thing. I would say some performances from like Duck Hodges were some of the worst things I've seen in the Steelers in the past few years. But like, if Rudolph is what we have to do for 1 year, it will be a super memey year in just terms of how bad the Steelers are going to be. Which I feel bad because we're going to be wasting a year of Minka, a year of Watt, another wasted year for Cam Hayward and
Najee.
Najee. Well, he's young and he's got to get a little bit better, honestly. But obviously, I'm not going to be too mad if, a rebuilding year for our offensive line. The rebuilding year for our offensive line is protecting Mason Rudolph. Like, if Mason Rudolph gets hit, I'm not going to be too upset. But, let our offensive line rebuild a little bit this year. But get Watson. That changes everything. And honestly, maybe you don't think this, but out of the possible destinations in terms of NFL history and kind of just like some of the more fun NFL teams when they're good, the Steelers are ahead of the Panthers and the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's probably pretty close nowadays with the Seahawks. Seahawks have become a favorite for a lot of people because of their run with Wilson, but historically it's the Steelers.
They're actually not that much better than the Colts. I think I saw a list that was like the most wins in the last decade, I want to say, maybe 12 years, maybe since 2010. The Patriots are first. The Packers are second, I do believe. Steelers are third, and Colts are fourth. So they're right behind the Steelers in wins in terms of, franchise. They just haven't won the big one in a long time. Well, that's not true. I think they won it more recently than the Steelers.
No, they won it in the mid 2000s, and the Steelers won it in 2010.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. They beat the Cardinals.
That was in 2010. That was like 2000. I'll look it up right now.
It was either 2009 or 2010, but either way, that's still more recently than the Colts.
I think the Steelers won it the year after the Colts did. I could be. That's what I want to say because
that's still more recent.
That's true.
And they've been more recently. They went again against the Packers, and the Packers won.
Let's see.
I guess what I'm kind of just trying to say is that historically speaking, even though the markets of the cities are pretty similar, Steelers is just a bigger football city. Indianapolis is as a football city. So
Yeah, that's true. Pittsburgh won in the 2008 season. Indianapolis won in the 2006 season. So
well, Steelers also won in like 2007 too, I think.
Yeah, they won the year before. They won in 2005, the year before Indianapolis did.
There you go.
Big Ben, 2-time Super Bowl winner.
Oh, and some other Texans news. They also re-signed Christian Kirksey, the linebacker. And fun fact about Christian Kirksey is my mom met him when he played for the Browns. One time they were playing the Rams, towards the end of the Rams' time in St. Louis. And he was at like a shoe store with his mom. And that's where my mom met him. He was like helping his mom get some like shoes off like the taller, like shelves and stuff. So that's where my mom and Jim met Christian Kirksey.
How about that?
So
nice guy, I assume. He put in some good work for the Packers.
Yeah.
Us Packers fans know him very well.
Yeah.
Man, what a ride with the NFL this week. How are they going to double back on that this week?
I don't think they can, unless, obviously we have some news looking forward. Jarvis Landry, some news, obviously, Jimmy G. Aaron Rodgers' deal is going to get hopefully signed sometime soon. And obviously Deshaun Watson. So there's some room for another huge week for the NFL.
Tampering period starts tomorrow, I do believe. So that's when teams can start talking to free agents. So free agency should be underway here soon.
Love it.
And I mean, what a great week. One thing I do have to say about all these quarterbacks on the move is what does that say about our draft class for quarterbacks this year? I know people said that it's a little bit weaker, and that's true, but it must be really weak if the Commanders literally contacted every single team in the NFL asking about quarterbacks and somehow landed on Carson Wentz.
Well, I think, like we said, Carson Wentz was the best value for them that they could afford. But, yeah, this draft class, I actually still think that they're going to draft a quarterback. I just do.
The Commanders with the round 1 pick.
Yes, I think that they will draft a quarterback in round 1.
I could see him taking maybe Desmond Ridder in the 2nd round.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if he's still there, but I think that they've seemed to eye up Matt Corral forever. So, we'll see. But I could definitely see them taking. But, yeah, like you said, I mean, overall, it's looking like a weaker draft class for quarterbacks. Only time will tell, though, so who knows. But, Pickett, Howell, Ritter, Willis, and Strong, Zappe, some guys like that.
Zappe won't go first round.
Jack Cohn, who actually had a good combine, but
he's overrated. He's Notre Dame. Don't draft a Notre Dame guy. What's the over-under? I'll set it for first-round quarterbacks, 4.5.
Oh, I'll take the under.
Yeah, I would too. What about 3.5? What would you take then? That's probably a more fair line.
Oh, I think I'd still take the. I think we could. The most we'll see is 3.
I think we could see 4. I know Pickett will go first round, probably. Sam Howell will probably also go.
No, I don't think Sam Howell's going to go in the first round.
Malik Willis will be a first round guy.
I think Malik will.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think those are the only. Corral, I could see him maybe first as well.
But with all these teams trading, I just don't think there's going to be that many openings. A lot of these guys won't get starting opportunities this year. That guys like Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson got this year. They just simply won't get them. So
yeah,
or Mac Jones, guys like that. There won't be any rookie starting quarterbacks except for maybe a few, like one.
Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, what you just said. There's not going to be one right now that's going to start right away. No, I still don't think. I don't think there's going to be a rookie quarterback that's just going to start right away. Something that could be fun here coming up is if the Colts trade way up to draft a rookie quarterback, if the Buccaneers trade up to draft a rookie quarterback, because they have pieces to trade away. And we could see something interesting like that on draft day. It's hard to predict trades unless you have an insider view, but it'll be something fun.
All right. You want to move into the biggest news of the week? Jeff Passan got hacked. And then not only did he get hacked, but he arose from the dead of Twitter to break the news that baseball is back. Finally.
It was a cool moment.
Yeah.
For MLB Twitter and just MLB fans in general. There was a lot of excitement, I know, of friends that I know that were just happy that it was back.
Jeff.F broke the news. I was so happy to see it. It caught me off guard because there had been talks like, oh, they might end it today or something. But I know that they had been saying that for the past 2 weeks and it hadn't happened yet. So I wasn't really believing it. But when I finally saw that it was back, I'm just happy. I think both sides got a pretty fair deal. Players didn't really get what they really wanted, but they got more than what I think the owners were willing to offer. The owners had to compromise quite a bit too. So I think they really met in the middle there. And it'll be a good deal. There's a lot of changes made though.
Yeah.
To the rules. 2 more teams will be added to the playoffs, 1 from each league. Bases are getting really bigger. They're getting massive.
Love it.
No more extra runner on second to start extra innings, which is good because I do like the longness of the extra innings. I think that's something that's really cool about baseball is you can go like 16, 17 innings.
Yeah, it's funny to think about that. We'll be back to there's probably going to be at least one or two a game that goes to like 4 a.m. into the next day.
Yep.
Love that. Love that about baseball.
Yeah, well, even last year, there was a game between the Dodgers and Padres that went to 15 innings, and that was when they had the runner on second rule.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. What's another rule that's gone?
Universal
The DH is universal now. So I think that, that's good for the evolvement of the league. And I'm just happy. Spring training is to start immediately. Many players have already reported. A few players have signed that maybe didn't get signed out of spring training. Opening day is set for April 7th, so it's a week later than what it was originally set to be. But those games will be made up during the season via doubleheaders. So a full season. We get a full season.
Yeah, that's what I really like.
Adam Wainwright, Yadier Molina should be set to break the all-time record for starts together for a pitcher and catcher battery mates. They need 20 to do that, and it was in jeopardy for a while. Usually pitchers will get about 30 starts a year, so even if they can avoid as long as they can avoid injuries, they should get that pretty easily.
Yeah.
I'm just excited. I can't wait for baseball.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I missed it. I was literally watching Andrew Miller highlights the other day.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think we forgot to mention was that they banned the shift, which I don't think is in effect until next season, right?
Yeah. A lot of these rules don't go into effect until next season.
Yeah. But I think my favorite takeaway from all this is bigger bases. That's hilarious. And then full season. I like that they're just going to, push back some games. It kind of makes the season unique because you'll never see another season like this upcoming season where, what time the final series is, the World Series will be further into November and stuff. I don't know. I just think that stuff's kind of cool. That was fun with the NBA this year when it was like in July. We had NBA basketball still.
Yeah.
Although it will be going on during football a little bit further into their season.
Well,
so
they're not pushing back the season at all.
No, I know,
They're
but
just pushing back opening day.
but the games that got canceled, aren't they kind of rolling those to the back?
No, they're just making them up throughout the season with double headers. So, like, for instance, the Cardinals got 2 or 3 games postponed that they had with the Pirates. So, like, you'll see 2 or 3 double headers with the Pirates this year to make up those games.
And those are 9-inning now.
9-inning. Yeah, that's the other thing. They are going back. 9-inning double headers, no more of the 7-inning stuff.
That's fine.
Yep. The bigger bases is going to be funny. I think that's also going to affect next year. But the 9-inning doubleheaders, the the universal DH, and the no runner on second extra innings, those are all in effect immediately this year. So,
and I've been a preacher of ban the shift for years now. Luke, not a ban the shift guy. That's fine. I see both sides, but I'm actually excited that will be coming into play next year.
Yeah, well, it's not like they're banning the shift. I think they're just like restricting it. So like it'll be 2 infielders have to stay like
on each side.
On each side of second base. So you will see some shift, for the pull hitters or stuff.
But not as
second base,
drastic.
shortstop will move to like right around second base. It just won't be, you won't have Manny Machado catching fly balls in right field anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Which is a little bit ridiculous, but Joey Gallo is happy. He may be on MVP watch right now. He still strikes out a lot though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Baseball is back. So I think they're doing a little bit of spring training games. Opening day will be in about 3 weeks. So not much will happen. Carlos Correa and Freddie Freeman are still the two biggest free agents that have to sign. They're kind of holding everything up right now, which makes me angry because without them, nothing moves. Like as soon as they sign, the rest of the needles will fall in place, and then we'll start to get some action. Right now, there really hasn't been that much. Cardinals have had to sign 2 relief pitchers right now to help their bullpen. Drew Verhagen, which he played in Japan the last few years. And then just recently, a few hours ago, they signed Nick Whitgren.
Where's the Detroit guy from?
Detroit?
I thought they signed somebody from Detroit.
Drew Verhagen played for Detroit before he went to Japan. They're both very cheap deals, so I don't mind them. It's not a Brett Cecil. It's not an Andrew Miller, not a Greg Holland type of deal where it could come back to bite you.
Greg Holland. Jesus Christ.
Brett Cecil? We had to throw that guy on the injured reserve to get him off the roster because we couldn't release him. That's how bad he was.
Yeah. Baseball back.
Yep. That's all I have to say about that. I'm still mad at the owners. I'll still boo DeWitt whenever he gets announced at opening day, even though I'm not going to opening day probably. But I think now the Cardinals will actually open the season at home. So they were supposed to open it on the road, but now they're opening it at home. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. Well, should we talk a little about we have something that we forgot to mention last week.
Yeah, I alluded to it.
Tournaments.
Yeah, I alluded to it in the podcast, but then we never actually got to talk about it.
So we'll just break it down real quick. So in the Atlantic Sun Conference, Bellarmine, how do we say it? How do you
Bellarmine.
Bellarmine.
Yeah, for college basketball.
Yeah, back to college basketball real quick before we end here. But Bellarmine won the Atlantic Sun against Jacksonville earlier this week. So this is where it kind of gets weird. Since Bellarmine is a very new D1 school, under 4 years of playing time in Division I ranks.
This is their second year in D1.
Second year of 4. They don't qualify to go dancing even if they win that game, which sucks. And apparently they are trying to adjust that rule to just 2 years. But for now, that's just how it is, and they're not going to be able to dance. Jacksonville beat Jacksonville State in the semifinals to get to the title, but Jacksonville State was the 1 seed in the tournament because they won the conference regular season title. And since Bellarmine won against Jacksonville, they are actually the team that gets to go dancing because they had the best conference record, Jacksonville State.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all.
No, that's what's fair.
Yeah, a lot of people are mad that Jacksonville didn't make it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Jacksonville State it's not like they didn't earn it. They won the regular season title. So
yeah, they were the 1 seed in their own tournament.
Yep.
So it does suck for Bellarmine, but we just thought we'd explain that because we forgot to explain it last week.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense to me because the reason I did look it up, the reason they use the 4-year rule is because a lot of these teams won't play very good when they first come up like to the D1 level. And they'll suck, and so they'll get demoted back down to D2 after 4 years. And so that's why they have this 4-year buffer, because they don't want to have a team make the playoffs, make the tournament, and then suck for the next 2 years and then be demoted back down. So that is the ultimate why. But if it just doesn't make sense, like if you're good enough to make the tournament, you should be like around for multiple years. Like this hasn't happened ever before. This is a situation that the NCAA has never seen before. So I think that regardless of whether if you're good enough to make the tournament, if you're the best team in your conference, you should make the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should get to go.
and they held like a little press conference thing that's like telling that they should be able to go. The players did, but it doesn't look like they will be able to. So it looks like Jacksonville State will be going.
Yeah.
And
Bellarmine isn't eligible for the NIT either, which
they're pretty
also
much
sucks. Yep,
they're not
done.
eligible for any postseason tournament.
Yep, but they did win their conference tournament, so I think, obviously it's disappointing that they don't get to play any farther, but they did win something, so that's pretty cool for the school, I guess.
You can still hang your hat on that you're an Atlantic Sun champ.
Yeah, exactly. But Bellarmine, I look for them to be a dynasty in years to come. Obviously, they're still ineligible for the next 2 years, which is unfortunate, but
yeah. 3 other little things that we'll get to here real quick. Mizzou fired Martin. And so here's, we're Missouri guys because we live in Missouri. It was time for Konzo to, have to depart from Mizzou and the university and from the team. He's a great guy, though, and I wish him all the best. But our new AD made the right decision in letting him go, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly, I mean, it sucks for him because he is a good guy, but it was time. He's in year 5. They had 21 losses this year.
Yeah, they had over 20 losses. They did get to 10 wins, but he's actually
10 wins. Like, that's impressive for an SEC team.
3-4 all time for Konzo in the SEC tournament, which isn't horrendous. Actually, it's the most that any Mizzou coaches have. But granted, they've only had 3 coaches in the SEC.
Yeah, but I mean, what he finished his, I don't remember what the exact number. He did finish his Mizzou career 1 game over 500.
Yeah, 78-77.
Yep. Okay.
2 tournament appearances, 1 in the first year and 1 2 years after his first appearance. And, it just didn't turn out, I think, as well as it could have because, they got Michael Porter, who was the number 1 recruit at the time, and he hurts his back really bad. Still struggles with it a little bit today. And, and we got Jonte from it as well. And Jonte was awesome when he was there at Mizzou, but, done for him. But it was a fun time. Last year was really fun for Mizzou. Xavier Pinson, Lawrence Tillman, and
Jeremiah Tillman.
Lawrence Tillman was linebacker for the Steelers. Jeremiah Tillman from East St. Louis, and we kept beating Illinois in the bragging rights game, and that was it was a fun period actually with Konzo until about last year or this year.
Yeah, I mean, last year I think it was. We had a lot of seniors. I'm trying to remember what the team was. I remember Tillman was a beast on the interior. We had Drew Smith and Mark Smith.
Yeah, and Drew, and that's what Mizzou really lacked this year, point guard, and it really showed literally in every game. And
it sucks because they could have had Pinson, but he did transfer away, I do believe, because of Konzo Martin.
Yeah, I don't really know what all entailed with Xavier Pinson's transferring, but he was one of our best players.
There was something that went down, I think, that Konzo wasn't playing him because he was doing something. It made him mad, so he transferred, and I took LSU to the tournament. So
yeah, he was fun. His last year at Mizzou wasn't his best year at Mizzou, which is interesting, but that's true.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good time. I think he will probably get back as an assistant. I know he has ties with Purdue, so maybe they will hire him as a assistant.
Yeah,
and maybe ultimately promote him to head coach whenever we hire Matt Painter to be the next head coach at Mizzou.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I don't even know who Mizzou. I know Kim English has been a name that's floated around. I struggle to think that would be a good hire, even though he is a Mizzou. I think it wouldn't be like the worst hire, but he did have a losing record with George Mason this year and a first-round exit in the A-10 tournament. I don't think that's the guy you really want to put everything in yet.
Yeah,
I would go for more of a guy like Sean Miller. He gets so into the games that he sweats within the first 5 minutes. I know because he used to be the coach of Arizona. I also know that he can bring a lot of sanctions to your program, which is not exactly something that Mizzou is
foreign to.
Yeah, I mean
We can do it.
Yeah, we're not. Sanctions aren't new to us. That guy just died. No, he's fine. So, I mean, it's fine. Sean Miller, I would find it hard for him to come to Mizzou, though. That just doesn't seem like a good fit.
I think they need to call him, for sure. Another guy they need to call is Rick Pitino. I would be in love with Rick Pitino if he came to Mizzou.
It would be incredible.
Italian?
Pervert.
Okay.
Well,
he might be Italian.
yeah, I don't know. Well, it's hard to say. But those are my two. You're Sean Miller. I want Sean Miller too, or Rick Pitino.
I want him just because he's from Arizona. That's literally the only reason.
Because he's a great coach there, too.
He was a good coach. But I think it would be funny for have like my former coach go to like Mizzou, like the hometown program. So
yeah, our new AD, she's about winning, but she's also about integrity. So that's where I start to falter in the belief that we'll either be able to get Pitino or Sean Miller.
Yeah,
but we'll see. I know this leads us to kind of my next thing was Georgia fired Tom Crean, and just here's what I think about him. He had a rough go of things, obviously, in Georgia, and he had Anthony Edwards for like 1 year. Awesome.
Amazing.
But, he just wasn't able to keep guys around either and stuff like that, and they just struggled. They play in one of the toughest conferences. He was fired. Kind of a raw deal in the end.
Not really. He had one win in the SEC this year.
Big win, though, too, against Alabama.
He was one win. They had 6 total wins this year. Awful way. They had really no good players on their team. They really haven't had any good players on their team other than Anthony Edwards, of course. I think it's just time for them to move on, get a restart. Another SEC school fired their coach. This was a little bit of a surprise. This news broke yesterday, 1 day before Selection Sunday.
Yep.
Will Wade dead.
Will Wade dead. Pronounced dead by LSU. Pretty much he's not going to be there on Selection Sunday. They have named a new interim head coach who's already on the staff at LSU. He won't be there on Selection Sunday. He will not be there in the tournament.
It's kind of shocking.
Will Wade dead.
But there have been sanctions that have been following LSU and Will Wade, recruiting recruiting investigations.
Violations. FBI got to the bottom of that shit.
Yeah, I guess apparently they must have found something really, really bad, because to fire him 1 day before you enter in the biggest tournament of the year, there must have been something that came out that is like, all right, this guy actually did, and you guys are gonna face some serious punishment if that doesn't happen. So
yeah, I think back to the Georgia thing real quick. I saw that Baylor's coach was in talks kind of with Georgia. If that's the case, Mizzou better be calling every big name that could possibly think about leaving their school. If Georgia is able to get Drew from Baylor, who just won a title last year, and they're going to have a chance to defend that title in the tournament.
Yeah, I doubt that he leaves Baylor. What he's built there is incredible, and I think he kind of wants to bask in the glory a little bit. I'm not saying he's never going to leave, but not this soon. He did just win a national title. I think he wants to bask in what he's built for a little bit, gain some confidence like, hey, this is really cool to be a winning program. And then I could maybe see him going to a school like Georgia and trying to do the same thing there. But, yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. It's always fun, the new head coach. I've went through a lot of it the last few years, obviously with the Cardinals getting a new manager. Arizona had to replace both their basketball and football head coach, which the basketball one is turning out to be an absolutely perfect hire.
Football and Mr. Fish.
Yeah.
Probably going to lose to NDSU.
But one thing about Sean Miller, though, a potential Mizzou next head coach, he very quietly recruited one of the best classes in Arizona basketball history before he was fired. That's the class that's currently excelling, number 2 in the nation right now. Will get a 1 seed in the tournament, and they have a very great chance to win the title with Tommy Lloyd. So just the way they play, their inside game, their passing, their electricity that they bring to every game is so fun to watch. I just can't. If Sean Miller can bring that to Mizzou, it'd be incredible.
Yeah. No, yeah. I can't wait to see who it is, who they do hire.
Yep.
I don't know when that will be, though. Honestly, probably sometime after the tournament, obviously.
Yeah.
But we'll see for Mizzou.
Yeah. So I think that's
pretty much it for this show. This show should be out, I think, before the selection show episode. I think, because if we do this one on like Monday, we could have our tournament show before the tournament actually starts on like Wednesday.
So we'll talk about the bracket, probably break it down a little bit. That is one thing. We're probably going to have a 2-show week this week.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that. That'll be a special occasion that it actually might happen next week too.
Yeah.
We'll have a lot of time and a lot of basketball to talk about, and maybe some other news as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I hope BYU and I hope Xavier miss the tournament because I hate them. And it's nothing against their program. It's just they've been overrated all year.
You hate Mormons?
No. I don't hate BYU the school. I just hate their basketball team this year.
Okay.
And it's actually kind of funny because at the beginning of the year, I really liked them because Alex Barcelo, their point guard, former Arizona Wildcat, very good. Former Purdue center, very good. I kind of like them, but they have no good wins this year, and they've been overrated by the media, and they should not be in the tournament. And I'm so glad that Virginia Tech and Richmond both secured spots because that might knock them both out. But the thread will continue throughout the tournament. I currently have Michigan added to the thread, so I'm really hoping that they don't make it, which would be kind of funny if they did because that would come back and bite me. I wanted to get out ahead of that. But it may come back to bite me. But
if you're watching on YouTube, I'll put the link to the thread to Luke's Twitter. Check that out.
Yep, we're currently almost up to 300 teams
eliminated.
Yep. So by the end, we should have 357 because there's 358 teams in the D1. So we should be. I might have forgotten teams along the way though. I've just kind of been mildly keeping track. So
done a pretty good job though. I keep up with it. It's almost instant. It seems like, unless you're doing something like baseball practice or something.
Yeah, if I have something, then sometimes you'll see me rattle off like 8 teams at one time because I haven't been I'm not a computer. I'm not a robot. I don't look at my phone 100% of the time. I do have other things outside of that, but I do try to keep up and be as instant as I possibly can with it. It's fun. I've got to know pretty much every single team this year, even Coppin State, which were 9-22 playing in the MEAC conference championship game yesterday. That was kind of fun, even though they got blown out. But it was kind of fun to see. If they won one more game, they would have been the first 10-win team
since like 85,
ever,
I think.
Ever. No, the least amount of wins that's gotten in is an 11-win team.
Okay.
So that would have been funny, to say the least. And Norfolk State out, which we both hate. So, it'll be it's going to be a fun week. This episode's already probably one of our longest. And
about probably an hour 20 something. Minutes.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of a hiccup in the middle of the episode, though, where it just stopped recording. So we may have to use the phone audio for.
You'll see if you're more. Yeah, you'll hear it.
We may have to use that for a minute or two, but it won't be that big of a deal.
Yeah, and if we have any other audio issues during the show, just bear with us. We're working on it, trying to get better. But thanks for listening. We'll see you guys sometime soon as 2-episode week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tune in for the tournament evaluation, I guess. We'll break down our brackets and hopefully give some good tips. You guys have a great week.